Okay, today I'm going to be talking about death and dying, how to cope with family and friends that are dying. So, this is from Erica Borgstrom and it's presented by Maria Rodriguez, which is me. I chose this topic or lesson because I found it most important to me, in particular, because I have dealt with death a lot. I've actually had my little brother murdered, and we didn't know how to cope with that. I had my husband passed away, and I didn't know how to cope with that. I had a few uncles passed away, and we didn't know how to cope with that. And my grandfather died at 95 from lung cancer, and we didn't know how to cope with that. And so I have my grandmother now, who's 102 years old, and I'm trying to learn things that I've never even tried with my grandmother. There's so many things that I learned from this class. How important it is to have our elderly's opinion be heard is one of the most important things that I've learned. I've always used that in the sense that I always ask my grandmother, like, her opinions on her birthdays, what color she likes, what kind of cake does she want, even though she'll tell me, it doesn't matter, honey, whatever you want to do for me. But it does matter because that's her birthday, it's her day, and I want to make her feel special. And so I'm always asking her different opinions, even though she feels like her opinion doesn't count, but it does count. And so thanks to this class, I learned so much, even more, especially of how to cope with death and dying, because she's 102 and there's days that she doesn't feel good, and I'm scared. But thanks to this class, I'm learning how to cope with my grandmother, and how to help her, how to make her feel happy, what to do for her. Okay, so there has been studies done by academics and practitioners that there has been challenges of methodological, and I got this information from Borgstrom in 2017. There has been a relation in death of how there has been discussions of how sensitive this topic is. Not everyone sees death and dying the same. Every culture perceives death and dying different and have different ways of coping with it. Okay, pre-field work, various preparations to support researchers on how to cope with future death-related research. So in order for them to know what to do, they have to prepare themselves before they start their field work. So they use the use of emotional safety protocols, aspects of self-care management. They keep a diary. They schedule plenty of time between interviews, taking opportunities, and debriefing. And these are just a few things that they do. Okay, definitions of death. Death is irreversible cessation of circulatory and respiratory functions, or when all structures of brain cease functioning. Dying. Dying is losing vitality. Brain death is permanent absence of all brain functions. Ways of death to care or trauma. Ways of death due to care or trauma. So many signs are sleeping more, feeling disoriented, eating less, breathing fast, less urination, spots on skin, cold feet and or hands, trunk being very hot. Some of these signs I saw in my grandfather, who was 95 and passing away. I noticed that he wasn't sleeping more. He was awake most of the time. Um, he didn't really feel disoriented, but I did see that he was eating less. He was breathing faster. He had cold feet, cold hands, but I never touched his trunk. So I never knew that that was one of the big signs when they were passing away, where his, well, I never thought of touching his trunk, but the trunk usually is very, very hot because it's working too fast. Mortality rates. The amount of people dying during these times. So these are the years where people died most. In 1960, 900 people died. In 1970, 850 people died. In 1980, 900 people died. In 1990, 850 people died. In the year 2000, 820 people died. In the year 2007, 810 people died. So these are just the amounts of people that died during these times due to different things. Coping with Dying by Kubler-Ross. These are the 5 things that people have a hard time dealing with. The first one is denial. This is not happening to me. They're in denial because they cannot believe what's going on with their selves. Second one is anger. Why is this happening? I don't understand. They start getting angry about the things that they've heard from the doctors, and they get upset, they get angry, they don't know how to deal with that. Bargaining. If I do this, I will not die. They want to bargain. They want to try different things, clinical trials to see what are the chances of living a longer life, or at least a few months, years. So they're trying to bargain to try different things in order to kind of like not die sooner, I guess. Depression. There's nothing else I can do. A lot of times people fall in depression and they give up. They give up completely, and they fall into depression where they don't want to see people, they don't want to deal with anybody, they don't want to talk to anybody. All their hobbies they used to do, they just stop doing things, and that's when they're depressed. Acceptance. It is what it is. A lot of people just decide to accept what's coming at them. They have no choice, and they feel like, what can I do? Nothing. This is it. I'm done. And this is how they feel. Okay, mortality discrepancies. Male and Hispanic is 78.7. Male non-Hispanic Black is 71.4%. Male non-Hispanic White 76.4. Females Hispanic is 83.8%. Female non-Hispanic Black 77.7%. Female non-Hispanic White 81.1%. Both sexes is 74.7%. And like I said, the reason why I chose this lecture is because I wanted to understand more of how to cope with death with my loved ones. Seeing them die was hard enough, and I wanted to learn more on what I can do to help them, or even say the right words to them. A lot of times we find ourselves not believing what's happening, not accepting what's happening. But in reality, life is precious. Life has a time limit. And a lot of times we don't understand why. And we have a hard time, especially when we lose our loved ones, accepting the reality of what's really happening, of what's really going on. And I know, like I tell my family, I already have my wishes of what I want when I pass away. I want to feel respected even when I'm dead. I want them to hear my voice even when I get older, because I want to be or even feel valued in being in this world. And I want my family to understand that my wishes, one, is for them not to go to a cemetery, because I'm not there no more. Physically, I'm not there. I want them to remember me with pictures, with videos. I want them to remember me of who I used to be, not of what I have become, which is ashes. And so I want them to understand that this is a path that we chose to live in, and we have to make good decisions for better outcomes. If we choose to take poor choices or do poor choices, we're gonna have bad consequences. And that's one of the things that I explain to my kids. Do the do the best you can in this world, because we're all going through this passage. And I tell them, you could become anything you want in this world. You could be anything in the world you want to be. You could be a scientist. You could learn how to do different things in this world and be satisfied that you have accomplished so many things. And be satisfied when you pass, before you're passing away on your last days of life, just knowing that you accomplished so much. And that's my presentation. Thank you, Professor, for all these lectures. I greatly appreciate every single one, but this one was the one that really caught my eye, or made me understand that this is what I wanted to learn more about. So I did my own research, and I looked through journals just to see what was best fit for this lecture. Thank you so much.